to another edition of Ask Michael Eline. This is where I teach people the law in an unorthodox manner by using examples that we see in the news, case law briefs, but it's all about exposing the Leviathan and its instrumentalities and taking back your rights. Know the law and mean to keep it well. Come here to learn from an expert to know your right. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Hey everybody, how's it going? I am attorney Michael Eline, and normally I do different types of videos. Hey Lynn, good seeing you. This is a live. I'm actually still working right now, but I've seen a bunch of breaking news and my emails have been blowing up. One of my friends lost their house up in the Palisades, and a lot of people are asking me, hey Mike, what's going on? Why is it that the houses that don't have these lithium battery meters on their houses, how come those houses aren't burning down? And you know, what's going on? Who can I sue? You know, who's really responsible? Is there more than one cause for these fires? What are we going to do about insurance? You know, since California doesn't manage their forests and does a lot of stupid stuff, the insurance companies are pulling out of California. And of course, we have Gavin Newsom always trying to blame global warming with his globalist buddies, always trying to blame man instead of his incompetence for all the stupid stuff that he does. And people are really upset about it, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. So again, hey Steve Conkler, hey Copster 5150, good seeing you guys. So again, I'm working right now, guys, so I'm going to play some videos and I'm going to pop in every now and then to answer questions, because I think this is really important. But I want you guys to really be on the lookout for these lithium ion batteries, man. They're a real problem. I mean, they can catch fire like that, and if it gets too hot, they'll just ignite. And these things get so hot, it's like a thermal, like in the Marine Corps, we had those thermite grenades, same kind of deal. I mean, like so hot they can just incinerate things. And I've even seen pictures of if plants that grow next to those batteries, it literally kills the plants. They let off some kind of an energy charge that damages life. So and that's the same stuff they put in our freaking doggone phones too, guys. Hey Lynn Davidson, Grateful Dabs, Steve Conkler, thank you guys for joining me. So just so you guys know, I'm at work today. Good seeing you, Lynn. I'm at work today, but how do you like my new view? You kind of get a chance to see me working. You can see that I'm actually a real lawyer and I do real lawyer work. But I like to cover things that interest me. And the fires really interest me, especially being able to sue Gavin Newsom. I think the guy's an absolute disgrace. And I think that if we had voter ID in California and we stopped flooding the state with illegal aliens, it could be a great state again. But unfortunately, the single party state of California is more worried about their politicians having power than they are about doing the right thing for the citizens of California. And unfortunately, a lot of the areas that burned are believers in this faith-based religion of leftism, which has left, in my opinion, Pacific Palisades in cinders. And so I'm doing good. Hey, what's going on? So you're saying my mic's not working well? Is that a little better, guys? Let me know. Everybody else, do I have good comms? I'd like to know if I have good comms. Let me know, guys. I'm going to check out my mic settings real quick right now. Testing. It looks like I've got decent comms, guys. Doing a test right now. Is that just with you, or are there other people having problems with my comms? A little echoey? Okay, stand by. Let me see if I can fix that. All right, I've got echo cancellation on. You know, I'm going to do an auto adjust on the mic volume. Is that a little better? Auto adjust. Sounds like I'm in a tunnel. Oh, that's not good. Unfreaking sad. Ah! Is that a little better? Somebody tell me. I just did an adjustment. Steve says it's okay on his. You other guys, let me know. It sucks, but we can still hear you. It sounds like the mic is off. Not better. Okay, hold on. Let me see what's going on. Looking at my gain. Lynn says it's good. Well, hopefully you guys, it's not going to blow out the show today. All right. So, anyways, guys, I'm going to try to get through with it's livable. Well, that sucks, man. I don't like having bad comms, guys. Hold on one second. I got echo cancellation on. I've got auto adjust, and I don't know what else to do, guys. I've got default mic. Hold on. Let's see if I can default. No, that's why. Hold on a minute, guys. I figured out what's going on. How's that? A little better? How's that? I think what it was is I had a different microphone. What do you guys think? Is that a little better? Now I've got the Yeti stereo mic on. Okay, cool. Yeah, I had the wrong mic on. Thanks, guys. That's another thing I appreciate about going live is I've got some really cool members and people who are paid subscribers, and they really support my channel and make it possible for me to do these shows. So it means a lot to me. Dr. Donna Walter, awesome. Okay, cool. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I want to share with you this video that I found about the LA Palisades fire, and then I'm going to get into it with you about the lithium battery power meters, waterless hydrants, public officials who you could potentially sue, the firefighters that were laid off because they refused to take that experimental vaccine, and of course we know that Biden and the Democrats made millions of dollars from big pharma to make sure that everybody took those experimental shots, right? So that's a problem. And so over 500 firefighters got laid off. We're going to talk about our DEI hires that are making like almost $500,000 a year. Mayor Karen Bass, the DEI fire chief that looks like she couldn't even do one push-up, even if she was taking steroids. And we're going to get into inverse condemnation, class actions, evidence, legal counsel, and feasibility. So I found a bunch of good stuff that we'll get into and talk about. But I'm going to talk with you as if you were a resident of Communist Fornia and you wanted to sue. I'm going to try to help you understand your rights. And right now, what I'm doing is I'm working. So I have to get back to work, but I'm going to play these. Hey, Greg B, good seeing you. I'm gonna. Yeah, you're right. Cops are 5150. They're all just garbage humans. I can't believe it that these people have any kind of power at all. But when you have a no voter ID, right? No voter ID, and you flood your entire state with illegal aliens and give them free SNAP benefits, free everything, and you register them to vote at the Department of Motor Vehicles, and you don't tell them that it's illegal for them to vote, and they think they can vote, they're going to vote for the people who are giving them free stuff. And this is a prime example of just totally negligent BS leadership. And I guarantee you, if California had voter ID, Gavin Newsom and all of his DEI friends would be gone. The only people who really vote for these guys are these bleeding heart liberals, most of whom had their homes burned in Pacific Palisades. So let's get into the first video, and give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree with me. Yeah, give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree. Please shout out to my friends Nick Hare. Their house burned down. I'm so sorry. It makes me so sad. World War II veteran. What a disgrace that we have these people in positions of leadership in California. Give me a bunch of ones if you think Gavin Newsom and his DEI hire fire chief should move back to Cuba where they belong. Give me a bunch of ones if you believe that all these communists who run Los Angeles should move to Cuba where they really belong. Let's get into, yeah, right on, Grateful Debs, karma, right? All right. So let me get into the first video, and then I'm going to try to get some work done. It's about a half hour. I'm hustling over here, so I'll be looking at your comments every now and then, but try to just understand that I'm actually working, so I got to get stuff done. But I wanted to go live because I have so many people texting me and emailing me saying, Mike, cover this story, because what you're hearing on the news, what you're hearing from the Marxist government of Los Angeles isn't reality. I mean, we're seeing people that don't have these lithium battery charged power meters, their houses aren't burning down. And then, of course, we know that Antifa members and illegal aliens are running around with blowtorches trying to keep the fires going and setting them all over the place. And they're like going, why do we have open borders? Why are we letting these people into our country? And why are we teaching college kids that America is evil? Hey, Grateful Dabs. Thank you, bro. Give me a bunch of ones for Grateful Dabs. He just threw me a $9.99. Looks like a super chat or a super sticker. So, guys, I've been going around spreading my love. I spent my entire arsenal of super chat money supporting Chili and Chuck Bronson and a couple of other channels over the last couple of days. So, but I learned a way to help promote other people's channels. What you do is you say, match my $9.99 or you're a jackboot thug pig sucker, right? Or something like that. And then other people will match or go higher. And then you have, that I think I was able to help Chili like raise a couple $100 the other night. So, by the way, Dick Heller, me and Chili DeCastro are going to be at the SHOT Show this weekend in Nevada. So hopefully we'll have some really good interviews to bring you from Dick Heller of District of Columbia versus Heller. So keep that in mind as well. That's going to be awesome. Pete Schneider, well, I don't know if they've caught more people, but all they have to do is look at their leadership. I mean, Gavin Newsom and all of his Marxist pals have cut the budgets. They refused to allow the reservoirs to be filled or even built. And all of our rain and water and snow, melted snow, runs off into the ocean. And they just love blaming global warming. Why? Because it gives them an opportunity to raise taxes. And so my mom lost her house up in Lake Arrowhead because the government refused to remove the dead trees that were infected by bark beetles. And of course, what did Newsom do? What he always does, blames global warming. He's a World Economic Forum, young global leader, right? And they're all about just blaming everything on global warming so they can force you to live in a 15-minute city, take away your car, and raise your taxes. That's global warming's being used as a catch-all to destroy your life. And, honestly, guys, we're all carbon. We're all made of carbon. And if you look at the real science, instead of the government paid scientists and the Bill Gates paid scientists, you have a completely different piece of evidence. So when the government and Google and all these other people get to decide what science is, then it's no longer science, it's pseudoscience. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. So, right, Lynn. Well, I think a lot of people agree with you. Hi, Tiffany. Great seeing you. So I appreciate you guys coming on, and let's hope that they catch somebody, but I think they've already caught them. I think that they're on TV every day. I think it's the Marxist-run CNN, PMS, NBC, Gavin Newsom's propaganda agency, and all of these World Economic Forum sociopaths, psychopaths who allowed this to happen, because now they get to blame it on global warming and force you to live in a 15-minute city. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. So let's get into the first video and learn about the different fires that are going on, and then we'll go from there. But again, I'm going to be working over here, trying to get stuff done. Right, Donna Walter, I agree with you. And OTVO, no boot liquor, right on. Team DLZ, we don't stop. That's right, guys. Super glad to see you guys. So again, please understand, I am a lawyer. I'm licensed to practice law in Texas and California, and I primarily do personal injury cases. And I've handled a lot of fire cases. And here, you're going to probably have a lot of other causes of action besides just suing the state and the electric and the power companies. There's probably going to be a lot of insurance companies who try to undervalue or try not to pay at all. So there's probably going to be quite a few insurance bad faith claims. And those are the types of cases that I'm proficient at. So all you guys who keep calling me trying to get me to take I got pulled over by a cop and I got butthurt cases, I can't do those cases, guys. There's no way I can support my family. But I'll do what I can to help you find a lawyer who will do that, or at least help you understand the law in your particular matter. But for now, let's just watch this video together while I work, and hopefully you guys can enjoy this with me while I try to get some work done. All right, so here we go.
On January 7th, 2025, massive wildfires broke out all along Los Angeles, California, making for some of the worst fires in California history. Huge amounts of damage have already been done. 11 have already been confirmed dead, and there's so much more. And I got a lot of emails and questions about this to figure out what really happened and where the blame lies. So I thought I'd try to capture everything, lay out the foundation of how we got here, what to expect next, and where the blame actually should be, because there's a fair bit to go around. So let's see if we can't figure this out together. I'm Ricky, and this is Stupid Da Vinci. To start, apologies if I sound weird. I've been super sick and trying to recover, and I want to get this video out. But let's start with how this happened. In the morning of January 7th, Nick Liability was the first to report the Palisade fires from his home in Piedra Morada Drive in Pacific Palisades on Tuesday morning. Like I mentioned, so far we have 11 confirmed deaths, and so far it's burned about 60 square miles, about 40,000 acres. And to put that in perspective, it's about 28,000 football fields. Now, so far, more than 12,000 structures have been burned, including thousands of homes and businesses. Now, private firms, insurance adjusters have put the cost so far in damages between $50 and $150 billion. Now, there were actually 6 fires in total, but the Lydia fire and the Sunset fire were both smaller. And at the time of recording here on January 11th at 8 p.m., those fires are 100% contained. So then we have the Palisades fire here. We have the Eaton fire here. And if you kind of zoom in, you can see the current fire front and the evacuation regions. There's the Kenneth fire up here and the Hearst fire up here. Now, the 2 biggest fires by far are the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire. To start, first and foremost, my heart goes out to all the people affected by this. I live about 100 miles from here, and this is heartbreaking. California's been my home for my majority of my entire life, over 35 years at this point, and this is really, really sad. So first and foremost, please keep an eye on the news, monitor all those evacuation warnings, and take foot. I know losing your home is horrible. We'll get to that here shortly, but loss of life is what we want to keep to a minimum. 11, it could have been much worse than that. Obviously, evacuations have helped. So stay safe and listen to the instructions coming from authorities. Also, really quickly, we don't actually know what caused the fire. The normal culprits are accidents or arson or lightning strikes or electrical service utilities. And so far, there's no evidence of accident or lightning or electrical fires from service utilities, but there have been some arsonists that have been caught and arrested. We don't know if that's the cause of all these fires, that particular neighborhood. We're not sure just yet. That will all come out. Now, before we get into the complex parameters of water and failures of leadership, let's talk about the perfect storm of ingredients that came together to make this fire as bad as it's been. The first is drought. The LAX weather monitor stations, typically the last 3 months of the year, measure about 3.5 inches of rainfall. This is the winter. This is when we get our rains. But this year, the last 3 months of 2024 have been super dry, about 0.03 inches of rain. That's 1/100th of what we average. The second ingredient is a high-pressure weather system that was perched over southern Idaho. If we look at this incredible telemetry data and wind data coming from Zoom Earth, we can see here that there's this high-pressure system working its way down. Now, high-pressure systems in the northern hemisphere rotate clockwise, like this, okay? That was 4 a.m. Now, if we start zooming forward in time, you can see those wind speeds really pick up. Now, this is funneled by the fact that the Sierra Nevadas block some of that wind. You can see how it's diverted and channeled through here. And then there's the second parameter, a low-pressure system coming off of the Gulf of California, or the Baja California Gulf. You can see right here. Now, low-pressure systems in the northern hemisphere rotate counterclockwise, as you can see right here. So what that means is that here in the LA area, if we fast forward further in time around 4:30 or so, you can see how this low pressure system is pinching the winds upward, the Sierra Nevada is pinching it downward, and that air gets funneled, and that resulted in gusts here, according to the weather station data from this particular app, of speeds of 50, 60 miles an hour. But for individual regions around that area, we were seeing winds of up to 100 miles an hour. Now, fire and
that's
wind
crazy.
are a deadly combination because winds just feed oxygen, which is the fuel that fires need. Now, these sorts of weather patterns by themselves, individually, aren't particularly uncommon, but when it comes together, causing 100-mile-an-hour winds in LA, that is really uncommon. I've lived in Southern California for the last 15, 18 years. I've never seen wind speeds that high. And the bad news is that these winds and this whole weather pattern is just beginning. Most reports of meteorologists claim that the wind speeds will remain high through the weekend and all the way through Wednesday. So there's going to be increased fuel for this fire for at least the next couple of days. Next, let's talk about some of the flight operations being carried out to try to suppress this fire. This is the CL-415 firefighting plane, aka the Super Scooper, and this legend of a bird flies right along, skimming along the ocean, picking up water to go and drop up to 1,500 gallons at a time on active fire locations. Now, one of the really cool parts about this story is that countries like Canada and even Mexico have been sending aid. Canada sent 2 of these planes to help with our firefighting efforts, and Mexico has sent dozens and dozens of firefighting personnel to help with us on the ground. I love that camaraderie, that teamwork, banding together is a really positive story. But as quickly as there's good news, there's bad news. Because in the early hours of operations, people were flying drones, and this happened. One of these personal drones crashed into the wing, rupturing it, causing the aircraft to be grounded. As you can see here, probably around here on the plane. But we didn't just lose one plane. We had to ground all flight operations for some period of time to figure out what was going on, because it's hard to tell. You don't want to keep losing other aircraft, right? And this is infuriating. In those early hours, if we had extra flight support to be able to drop 1,500 gallons of water at a time, we might have been in better shape, right? Because as that fire grows, it gets harder and harder to contain. And I made an entire video about the future of drones and how we've seen this whole pop up of all these drone activities and stories, and it's going to be really serious. And I hope whoever was responsible gets the full brunt of law enforcement, and we make an example of them. Let's also take a moment to thank the heroes, the first responders, all the firefighters, all the people involved in this, the pilot, students, operations, and everybody else. Amazing to see this in action. And let's also just take a quick look at what this aircraft is all about. You can see it skimming here along the water surface, collecting water. This means that the plane doesn't have to land. It doesn't have to refuel. It just skims along the water, refills its tanks from seawater, which is endless, and gets right back to work. Now, I bring all this up because I have some questions when it comes to budgets and spending. Like, why don't we have 100 of these things in California, 50 in Northern California, 50 in Southern California to deploy whenever this happens? The entire state, I think, has 10, and who knows how many of those are operational. But there are no easy solutions in firefighting because, again, those early hours with 50 to 100 mile an hour sustained winds.
So as an aside, just so you guys know, the goofy commie government of California has decided that diesel trucks and out-of-state trucks and all that stuff, in order for them to come in and help, like all these volunteer fire trucks, they first have to go to Sacramento to get inspected and then come back down to LA to fight the fire. So it reminds me of the old Soviet Union. I mean, the left and their policies exactly like the policies of the East Germans and the Soviet Union. You know, overregulation, stupid rules. Global warming means that we have to basically kill ourselves. It's like a false religion. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree. I'm getting stories from my friends who are firefighters from other states who are coming to trying to come into LA, and they're being denied entry and being rerouted to Sacramento so their fire trucks can pass the diesel inspection first because they don't want to damage the environment. So, I mean, there's just a lot of crazy stuff going on, guys. Let's keep on watching. Out of control.
It's really hard to fly aircraft, especially helicopters. Helicopters are really tricky to fly in wind speeds of 50 miles an hour. They can call stall on the retreating blade as it comes across the air, just leading to loss of authority and crashes and stuff. So they can't really fly. Now, one of the key criticisms that people have voiced is fire mitigation strategies and pre-burns to try to control the vegetation. Now, California is a massive state with all kinds of topology. We have forests, we have some of the oldest trees in the world, we have lowland areas, deserts, and everything else. But the Pacific Palisades are covered in chaparral vegetation. Mm-hmm. It's just a thin shrub and brush. These are not forests. If you try to do a controlled burn around here, it's hard to say where it would stop. It might just spread all the way and just completely destroy everything. Now, I'm not an expert in fire prevention. If you are, leave us a comment. I'll pin that. I'll share the information in it. But it's not that straightforward. Typically, control burns are really effective in forests. As you can see here, here's a little graph showing what happens if you untreat and the end result, and what happens if you do thin only, if you do a reactionary burn, and a thin and RX burn. So you can see how much more of the trees you can preserve. But again, we weren't talking about forest. There was no thin or dead shrub and growth that you could burn to keep the trees, because the trees take much longer to catch fire than vegetation and smaller brush, right? Just surface area. But California does do controlled burns. For example, just really quick look, there's one happening right now, the Viejas prescribed burn. Now for the heart of the controversy. The firefighters ran out of water. After battling the flames for about 15 hours, LA's fire hydrants ran dry.
Hey,
Now
Joey.
they have 3 1 million gallon reserve tanks up high with just gravity feed for pressure to power their hydrants. And that ran out after about 15 hours. Now, 3 million gallons of water is actually not that much. But here's the problem. This is the Santa Ynez Reservoir right here, okay? This holds 117 million gallons. That means that this could have refilled those 3 1 million gallon tanks over 30 times. And guess what? This was out of operation. And this reservoir has been empty since February 2024, nearly a year. Why? Because of a tear in the floating cover, which allowed in debris and bird droppings and let it into the water supply. Now, this was a minor repair. The Department of Water and Power drained the reservoir and put out bids, and in April was looking for a cost around $89,000. When it finally signed off to get the repairs done, it cost $130,000, and it happened in November, almost 7 months later. Now, it's not clear how the repairs are going, but the reservoir is scheduled.
This is called leftist leadership. They're more concerned about having the right gender and the right skin color in charge than they are about having competent leadership. This is a prime example of why we need a merit-based society once again, because merit-based society is what made America such a great place to begin with.
To reopen in February, weeks after this happened. That should drive you insane. Over a covering, $89,000 to $130,000 is nothing. I'm going to bring up money a lot in this episode because California is unique in the world when it comes to money in many and all ways. So keep these numbers in your head. Around $130,000 to repair this lining cover on this reservoir. Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom called for an investigation to loss of water pressure and the reservoir's lack of availability, but we'll come back to him in a minute. If you're not already mad enough, think about this. This reservoir was about 1 mile from where the fire started. That's it. That's what we're talking about. Now, there's 2 things to this. If there's fires and they turn off power, was there emergency backup power to pump water back into those highly elevated water tanks? If not, then they would have been stuck anyway. That's poor urban design. But having that reservoir empty is downright a failure of our leadership. There's just no getting around it. For 7 months, they had to repair a liner. Couldn't imagine if you had the willpower, you can get it done in 30 days. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, there's one more thing to remember about this. That reservoir sits at 750 feet, okay? But where the fire was first reported was at around 1,200 feet, and where the tanks were was even higher at 1,500 feet. This means that we would need mechanical pumps and electricity to get that water up. Again, nothing you can't engineer. It's not rocket science. It's something you could do, but it's hard to know if that capacity was there, especially with how quickly we were draining the reservoir. But again, this could be designed, right? We could build these pumps to withstand that level of demand and pump fast enough to refill those reservoirs to keep water pressure continuously. In the event of all emergencies, everything is heightened to the maximum, right? You don't need any emergency systems until you do, and when you do, you need all of it. The average water demand is around 1,100 gallons per minute, but the firefighters were pulling around 3,300 gallons per minute, 3 to 4 times the normal demand. And that's why it was depleted in just 15 hours. So again, there's 2 parts to the story. The failure of the infrastructure already in place, that is on leadership and the maintainers of our cities.
Yep.
And number 2 is, were these systems built sufficiently? That's more of an engineering challenge where you need great leadership to be able to have good requirements and enforce them. So how this Palisades water system works is that water is fed up continuously, pumped up to those 3 1 million gallon storage tanks. That's done continuously. It then flows down to the Palisades, generating pressure by gravity. All tanks were empty by 3 a.m. on Wednesday, so there was no way to generate pressure in the hydrants of the upper Palisades. That tells you a couple of things. One, that the pump rate back up is probably around 1,000 gallons per minute, and the firefighters were drawing probably closer to 3,500 gallons per minute. That means that eventually they would run out. But if I was a city planner, I would have backup systems, backup pumps that normally don't operate with a backup energy generation station. So if the power goes out or anything else, you could still pump extra water. If you could pump the same rate you're discharging, you could fight the fire indefinitely 40 more times, right? 40 times 15 hours. An insane change in the preparedness that we would have. But we'll say that for the end when we talk about what we have to learn from this. So after 15 hours, due to poor planning and preparation, the firefighters on the ground have no water pressure in the hydrants. Now our only weapon in the fight is aircraft. As we mentioned, there are some aircraft that will load fresh water and dump it onto the active fire area. Other planes, the super scoopers that go to the ocean, get salt water wherever it's available. California has no end of that, to dump it again on the active site. But if you've ever seen this is actually fire retardant. It's actually a product called Phos-Chek LC95, which is sold by a company called Perimeter. It's a mixture of water, fertilizer, and then this red color is actually just rust. What's amazing about this is it contains two types of salts, diammonium phosphate and ammonium polyphosphate. Looking at this thing, that is a DC-10, and that is not something they teach you in civil aviation school. That pilot flew over the ridgeline in a DC-10, a old and decommissioned aircraft, which actually is still used by like FedEx and things for freight. Climbs over the ridge and drops back down. That is absolutely legendary flying. Just amazing. I'm blown away by the pilots and the people doing this sort of thing. Now, the goal of the Phos-Chek is to coat all the trees and shrubs and plants. And then when the fire's heat starts to consume it, instead of allowing that carbon to become a flammable carbon material that will basically be food for the fire, it actually breaks down, absorbs some of that energy, and becomes a non-flammable carbon material. But if you can lay down this fire retardant ahead of the fire, it will actually try to help and keep the fire contained and minimize the new biomass available for the fire to consume. This is a old tactic, and it's a very effective one, and it's amazing seeing it in action. It's one of those things that never fails to impress. Now, in these stories, I'm always blown away by the operators, pilots, and engineers, but the politicians, usually not so much. Here's a little breakdown of some of the policies that have plagued this event. LA Mayor Karen Bass made a $17 million budget cut to the city's fire department. The chief of LA's fire department, Kristen Crowley, has been throwing her under the bus, saying that her team was not equipped for this, that they didn't have the assets and the apparatus in place, either for action or even pre-deployment. A lot of times when you know a fire is happening, firefighters will send equipment, trucks, personnel, apparatus to nearby fire stations in preparation for what's going to happen. And they were saying that they were so understaffed and under-equipped, they were not able to do that. $17 million budget cuts for LA, a city that is known to have fire issues and lots of money. Hard to imagine. Okay, the next story involves Gavin Newsom and his alleged desire to destroy dams in California and how that led to this issue. The dams in question are in the northern part of the state, basically at the border with Oregon. This is Copco. This is the Copco Lake right here. And then you can kind of see the Iron Gate Reservoir. And down here would be the dams in question. Now, his goal was to remove a series of dams along this section. Now, the meme pretty much goes that Gavin Newsom wanted to save some fish and killed Californians. So here's some pictures. Copco Dam before, right? And after. That's Copco 1. This is Copco Dam 2, before and after. And this is the Iron Gate Dam, before and after. Now the goal, J.C. Boyle Dam as well. Sorry, one more. It's before and after. Now, the goal of these dam removals was, it was old architecture, and they wanted to remove it to restore natural waterways, to preserve fish, salmon, other fish. And it's hard to say. I'm not privy enough. I'm not a hydrologist to know how that affected water down in Southern California, but I know we had other water. We have aqueducts and stuff. So odds are that part of the story about these dams being destroyed to save the fish is just a meme, and it's not true. But before you think I'm letting Gavin Newsom off the hook, I got to get to the financials of California. Remember when I said California's financials are just insane to understand? According to Statista, here's a breakdown of tax revenue by state. California makes $220 billion in tax revenue. The next biggest is New York at $125 billion, about $100 billion less. Texas, which is really profitable, a well-run state, has no income taxes. So as a result, they only collect $86 billion. So we have $220 billion each and every year. So by far and away, the largest tax collector in America. Now let's contextualize it one step further and compare that with the entire GDP. That's every dollar a country makes, okay? Now here's a list of the top countries by GDP. There are only 56 countries on Earth with a GDP higher than California's tax income from taxes. The rest of these countries all have a lower GDP than what California makes, not from GDP. California's GDP is insane. It's in the trillions, just from taxes. So when I hear that we have to cut, we don't have money for $130,000 to tear a liner, that we don't have $17 million for firefighters, I got to tell you, I'm, as a long-term Californian, completely fed up with this. I think our financial state is absolutely insane. A lot of countries, a lot of states don't have the kind of money to take on large infrastructure or to fix all their problems. That's not the case here. $220 billion goes a long way. So what do we actually spend it on? I'm going to put how insane $220 billion every year is in context. But first, we have to talk about how are we spending this? How is California in a budget deficit? It's absolutely maddening. So I pulled up the data. What I wanted to know is how is it changing over time? So over here is the 2017, 2018 numbers, and over here is last year's numbers, okay? And I wanted to just show the difference in growth. So if we look over here, the largest growth sector is a bucket of money called health and human services. The second largest is K through 12 education. Let's talk about K through 12 education first. You might be thinking California is the biggest state in the union. That is true. We are the biggest state in the union, but maybe not for long. Here's a look at enrollment numbers for K through 12. We hit our peak of over 6.3 million students back in 2004, and we have been on a decline ever since. And the latest numbers I could find is about 5.8 million. Okay, so that means that we now spend 150% more, or $27 billion more on K-12 education for less students. And by no report I've ever seen does California somehow get a miraculous grade of some of the greatest schools in the nation. It's not the case at all. So this has to do with administrative bloat. So that's salaries being paid to non-teaching positions, right? I am a huge advocate of public schools. I believe that's the great equalizer. If you want to give people equal opportunity.
Well, you should forgive him because we know that public schools are designed to produce a bunch of idiots, as evidenced by the modern day leadership that we have that was public school educated. But let's keep going.
He's investing great schools across the board, not only in rich neighborhoods, everywhere. But what we have done is hired administrators, and there's a level of bloat that's really prevalent, especially in higher education. The number of positions, the number of non-teaching positions has gotten completely out of control, and we have to fix that. We cannot spend that much money per student, which is way more than any of the really great countries spend for these kinds of outcomes. I think that's something that has to be better. But as if the general fund wasn't enough, we have special
Me
funds.
too, America
bonds.
first.
We can't even stick to our original budgets, and as a result, this is why we run in deficits.
I'll check it out, Kinetic. I'll
This
check it out,
amount
brother.
of money for health and human services is probably the spending that everyone gives California a hard time over. This is the homelessness problem. This is low income housing. This is all of those projects. So that means that K-12 education and health and human services is nearly 200 billion. Again, we make about 220. I think this year might be 230. Well, we'll see after all this. But that's a huge amount of our spending. Now, before I get into how the health and human services is performing, here's a general call to reason. We should tell all of our elected officials to return to a 2016 budget. That was around 183 all in, and enforce that, because I think we need to have $40 to $50 billion of surplus to handle disasters and to have a massive water reclamation and water mitigation project that should span a long time. But when you have this much money coming in, it's more than doable. So how's the homeless problem going? California has 188,000 homeless people. That's about a quarter of all the homeless people in America. And that number grew 3% year over year. And it basically grows every year. The homeless population is growing. Now, does that mean that more people are falling into homelessness, or are we attracting homelessness? I mean, California has some of the best weather in America all year round. There are places in California you can live outside in a tent all year. Those things I don't know, but I can tell you that these plans are not working. And there's huge levels of unaccounted for allocations, money not being spent properly, and all the rest. But to put that into perspective, that part of the government is eating up $114 billion. That cannot continue. If we cut that in half and forced California or 50 billion or some number, they might actually have better outcomes because maybe we'd have better people in charge who could do a better job of handling it. By the way, that $220 billion doesn't include property taxes. Okay. The average per capita that a person in California pays is $19.50 per person. Okay. The population of 39 million people, that's $76 billion every year in property taxes. Now, that money isn't counted to the state because it goes into local coffers, but that's another nearly $80 billion combined, $300 billion. Now, think about that for a minute.
Well, they use it to pay like all their DEI hires. Like they hire these fire department officials based upon their gender or their sexual preference, and they're giving them like $500,000 a year, and they're obviously underqualified. I mean, none of them could drag someone out of a fire. I mean, come on, guys. It's a faith-based religion of leftism. That's the reason California's having all these problems. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree.
So remember earlier when I said Gavin Newsom probably isn't to blame for the dams to the very north of the state? This is where he definitely is to blame. This is an article that talks about the 42 aging dams in the state that need money for restorations, about $50 million in total. Now, apparently there's no money for these dams to fix them. And as a result, they've had to run at lower than usual capacity. Okay. Now, I want to put this into context for you. $50 million after the numbers that we've just been talking about is less than nothing. Why is this so bad? I live in San Diego. Last winter, a year ago, we had really, really good rainfall. We basically get really good rains every couple of years, like every 4 years, kind of the El Nino cycles, and then kind of dry, clear blue skies and no rain. So when I heard stories a year ago that there were dams in San Diego in particular and other parts of the state that were so damaged that the dam operators had to open levees and let the water out, because if they kept the water back, the pressure from all that water could cause a catastrophic failure. So dams were so compromised that they couldn't hold back about 107 billion gallons of capacity of water. That's what was lost by not repairing these dams. So 17 million to fund the fire department, add a zero, give them 170 million, and 50 million, potentially 100 million, because these things cost more than they say, 200 million, 500 million, whatever that number was, we could easily afford to fix it. And if we had 107 billion gallons, that's like having 1,000 Santa Ynez reservoirs. 1,000. Picture that. That reservoir that we showed you near the Pacific Palisades, 1,000 of them that we could litter across the state, across all the major population centers, Northern and Southern California, in the event of the next one, right? That wasn't done. Over $50 million. And that is where you should be absolutely furious, because I remember that story and I remember thinking, we are letting beautiful, fresh, clean water go right back to the Pacific Ocean instead of storing it, all because we don't have the political wherewithal or the power of will to get the work that needs to get done, right? Now, the infuriation about this story is multifold for me, right? Because as an engineer, I always think about how do you design a system with redundancy, with failure and backup, right? The Santa Ynez reservoir should be one of many. There should be other reservoirs. So if there's construction or anything happening in one reservoir, you have multiple that can jump up. You should have 2 pumps in operation and 2 backup pumps that are maintained and checked at all times. If there's a failure of any pump, you're never without water. You should be able to Output enough water to maintain a critical fire. These are the exercises that you should go through, right? Airplanes are built this way. We talked about planes in the past with redundant hydraulic systems, multiple redundancies in terms of motors and engines and pumps. We have to build better, and it's all doable. When you make $200 to $300 billion every year, there's no excuse for why I can't do any of this stuff. Finally, insurance. What does this mean for insurance? Because I mentioned that $220 billion tax base that's based on really wealthy people paying taxes. Like just like in federal income taxes, the upper 50% of earners pay the majority of state and local taxes as well. So if we lose,
And guess what? We're all leaving communist Fornia because we're not getting anything for our money but homeless people shitting all over the bike path in Venice Beach. It smells like piss everywhere. You go to Santa Monica, you try to go to the beach, there's baby diapers filled with poop all over the sand, illegal aliens everywhere. It's a disaster. We're paying money for what? So most people are shutting down their businesses who have money, who have careers, who actually work for a living, are leaving California by at least 500,000 per year. And they're being replaced with illegals who get SNAP benefits and everything for free. And less than 2% of those illegals actually look for work. Why would they when they get free hotels, free health care, free SNAP benefits, and they even get the right to vote as soon as they register at the DMV?
lose them because we can't insure their homes, we're in trouble. So California's Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara has already issued a mandatory 1-year moratorium on non-renewals and cancellations to protect Southern California residents affected by recent fires. And they have a list on their website, which you can put to in the description, where you can check to see if you're under that list. That means that if you had no previous notice or anything, they cannot cancel your policy for 1 year. What happens after that? We'll get to that. The
They're all
other
going to
thing
leave.
is
All the insurance
that they've
companies are
also
going to
told the
bail.
insurance companies to do the right thing for any non-renewals in the past 90 days before the fires broke out. This is for people who got letters saying, we're going to cancel your insurance effective this date. If you got that letter 90 days from when the fires broke out, they're asking these companies to do the right thing, but there's no guarantee. I've had my insurance canceled on me before. I had farmers and they told me, we're dropping you. And now I have another company, and I'll be honest with you. I don't know what will happen to us in the future if I'm going to start getting letters as soon as they can to drop us. Companies have already been pulling out of California and Florida. By the way, this is not just a California problem. Florida has huge devastation, especially last year, and they have similar risk where companies are saying just not worth the reward and we're going to drop coverage. Home values in California are especially crazy because of how expensive they are. Average homes in the Pacific Palisades were over $4 million. And that's why even if the fire is relatively small in the grand scheme of things, the damage has been absolutely insane. About 1,600 policies in the Pacific Palisades were dropped by State Farm in July. As a result, homeowners in the Pacific Palisades had increasingly shifted to FAIR, which is California's Fair Access to Insurance Requirements plan, with roughly 1,400 of the town's 9,000 homes covered by the plan. That's like 1 in 7. This is a backup for people who can't get insurance, not a normal insurance vendor. Since 2019, more than 100,000 Californians have lost their insurance. These numbers become insane, especially at the very expensive nature of the state, homes, labor, and everything else to rebuild these homes. Now, climate change and climate disaster are the reason for these companies to abandon California and Florida and other parts of the world. Now, if you believe in climate change or not, the insurance companies and their models sure as heck do. And that's why they're getting out in front of this saying, I don't want to cover it because we would have to charge these people so much money that it wouldn't even be worth it. And it's really unfortunate for people like me who've paid homeowners insurance for 20 years, never used it for $1. And when they drop me, I get nothing back, right? This is the reality in the post aftermath, even for people not affected by this fire, that we will have to face. And that's why I urge everybody to have some compassion and sympathy for the people involved in this. And if you're able to donate, we'll put a donation and a charity link in the description that you can give to help people. We will do the same. And hopefully we can do better in the future. But I urge you, and this is a call for anybody who's watching, because I know my audience. If you're an engineer, a hydrologist, you work in water or large waterworks, you're an accountant, you have any kind of high technical engineer scientist background, I urge you to run for political office, because currently politicians are social workers, lawyers, and politicians, and they are just not equipped to solve the big problems. If we had more engineers in politics, I'd have a lot more optimism for the future. I'm not quite there yet. I still have a big mortgage to pay off, but maybe in 10 years. So if you're close to that point in your life and you have civil service in you, it'd be an amazing way to help your country, your state, and so much more, because we need smarter people with industry knowledge running things. We can't keep doing things the same way, and we need drastic changes. But the good news is, with how much money California makes, it's possible. Unless we screw this whole thing up, drive all the high earners out of here, and drop that tax base.
We're already leaving.
Then we're all screwed.
We're
There's
gone.
no way we can recover.
We're gone.
My optimism.
Why would
my
we want to
hope
stay and
only
support a
exists
bunch
if
of illegals who
we
get
can
everything
fix
for
this
free?
problem.
Stupid.
But you've heard of people leaving California. Largely now, it's lower income people who just can't afford to buy a
That's
house.
not true.
But
That
we
is a
start
lie.
losing the really rich people with their $10 million homes and their.
That is a lie. Look, they just passed a millionaire's tax. You've got the guy Marky Mark. Remember Marky Mark, the guy who makes all the, I forgot his Mark Wahlberg. Look, they passed a millionaire's tax, right? So all the millionaires are selling their mansions and leaving California. Why would you stay? This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Upper middle class families are fleeing California. You're talking to someone who's made well over $1 million a year. Me, my friends, family, we're all leaving California, guys. Nobody wants to be there. It's a disaster. Why would you want to raise your kids in a city or a state like California, or a city like Los Angeles? Yeah, low-income people are leaving, sure. The problem is low-income people don't have the money to move. They can't afford it. So what he's saying isn't necessarily true. I would say probably at least a third of the people fleeing California are wealthy, well-to-do people, or at least upper middle class. We don't want to stay in a place that doesn't look after us. But you can't even carry a gun in your car. You got to keep it in a safe. You got to keep it locked. You can't even have a magazine in the chamber. But yet illegal aliens being released from prisons, felons, abusers of women are flooding into our country. And men like me aren't even allowed to, do you really think I'm going to have time to unlock my gun safe, pop a mag in the mag well, and be able to fend off an attacker while I'm in my car, while I got my wife and kids? It's just not possible. So why would you want to stay in a state like that? And it's not called the high capacity magazine, Kinetic Customs. It's called the standard capacity magazine. They make us put mag blocks in our magazines so we can only have 10 rounds, because these do-good lefty commies have decided that someone only needs 10 rounds in their magazine if they're a citizen or a civilian. But if you're a cop, you can have 20, 30, 40 rounds. Why is that? Cops are probably better trained at shooting than a civilian, right? So the idea behind having more rounds is that you can put rounds on target in a high-pressure situation. See, the problem is when you have do-good commies passing gun laws who know nothing about firearms, they pass stupid laws. And so people like me who are at least semi-intelligent are going, I'm out of here. I'm not going to subject my family to this. You're literally flooding our country with criminals, and yet you won't even allow me to keep my family safe. I mean, there's not even a compromise. Why would you want to stay in a state like that? Homicides are going to keep increasing. That's exactly right. And the more they ban guns and the more they pass an ammo tax, all that's going to do is help criminals. I mean, criminals know the place to go to commit crimes is school campuses and government buildings, because they know nobody's going to be armed there, right? So of course that's where they're going to go. A gun-free zone is the place where a criminal's going to go. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. All right. So, but I do like this guy's video. I think he did a good job so far. Let's see if he's. I think he's done with his video. So I've got another one. So this next video that I'm going to share with you is pretty interesting. This is what I've been telling you guys about. So this is an old story. So we have all these lithium battery powered power meters, right? All over LA. And so the word on the street is, and by the way, I sue the government for things like this. I'm a personal injury attorney. The problem with politicians is is they vote for whoever gives them campaign donations. So these people selling these lithium battery power meters, right? All they got to do is donate a bunch of money to the politician, and they're going to vote to pass a law to do that. So let's see what that's done in the past, and why the hell do they still have these lithium powered meters on these homes when they know that it's going to cause this kind of damage? Take a look at this, guys. Tell me what do you guys think?
As flames climbed the side of their Kerman home, the Sandoval family escaped to a neighbor's home while firefighters tried to save theirs.
And help get some of their valuables out, some vehicles and RVs and stuff like that out, and help preserve those. Unfortunately, though, there still was significant damage.
Tens of thousands in damage, and firefighters determined this is where it started. A few months later, in September 2015, another fire started in a similar spot at this Fireball home. And Jose Valdez says he had a sinking suspicion that day.
A month before the house caught on fire, PG&E had came and left us a little flyer to say they were going to come out and install a new smart meter in our house.
Valdez says he and his family cleared out of the house safely, and they could only watch the flames spread from the side of their garage.
This is a charge for my neighbor's car that was burned here.
While firefighters doused the house in water, they say they also noticed several people from PG&E. Valdez says one of them removed the smart meter while the house was still burning. Fireball's fire chief saw the same thing, and he says his investigation concluded the fire was most likely caused by a problem in the electrical panel.
And the problem with an electrical panel, in my belief, was the smart meter that was installed in the panel by PG&E.
The Valdez family and the Sandovals are both suing PG&E, claiming smart meter malfunctions set their homes on fire. And they're not alone. The electric company is facing at least 5 similar lawsuits statewide. Its representatives deny any liability and say they stand behind the safety of the company's smart meters. Coming up on Action News at 6, I had 21 questions for PG&E about smart meters and the Fresno County fires. Their chance to respond, plus a look at video attorneys say shows how they suspect those fires started.
Take a look, guys.
Lauren Hoggard, ABC 30, Action News.
So the word on the street is, and I have it on good authority, that the homes that don't have those smart meters, many of them are still standing. And I think we're going to find out, unless Communist News Network and PMSNBC, the cheerleaders for the single party state of California politicians, steps in and covers it up. I think this is going to be a huge bombshell. These lithium ion batteries are extremely dangerous. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. That's why I haven't gotten a Tesla. I mean, Tesla has these cars, right? Because I sue for cases like this. I know I have the discovery. I know how this works as a lawyer. They have a button that you press to unlock the door, right? So what if you have an electrical malfunction like a lithium ion battery explosion? How are you going to get out? I mean, think about that. Don't you think you might get cooked alive? I mean, a lot of people have been burned alive in these lithium ion powered cars. I want a good old fashioned car that's got a door release, right? And I even heard Lane Myers saying the other day, check it out. I heard Lane Myers the other day talking about this, and he said, look, if the government wants to off you, or your enemies want to off you and they're in government, right? All they got to do is program that self-driving car. You won't be able to open your doors. They could just off you and just blame it on a malfunction. Look, you guys can say whatever you want about Lane, but I think the guy's a visionary. I think he is right on the money. I mean, this is the CIA's dream come true. Think about that. So that's right, Lynn. I know a lot of things, but I don't know everything. They lock Lynn, Dr. Donna Walker says they lock you into your car, right? So you push a button to try to get out, right? But what if you can't get out? What if you're not able to get out of your car? You get cooked in there alive, right? And not everybody carries one of those keychain things like I have. It's got like a little metal spike where you can break the window. And that's what you guys should carry anyways, even in a regular car, because let's face it, if you have an impact to the car, to the post, it could jam the door shut. So you always want to have a window breaker. So I recommend you go over to BZ Watchdog and buy one of those from him. He sells all that stuff. So definitely check out BZ Watchdog. He's got some good stuff, man. Michael, that's what I was in the middle of typing. What you just said, bust the window. Yeah. Well, because the people on my channel, for the most part, are critical thinkers, and they don't believe in the leftist-run media, the leftist-run public school system. They're actually able to think for themselves and think outside the box. But now I've got this other video that I want to share with you. Another amazing one, man. It's just unbelievable the stuff that's going on, the incompetence of the California government. I mean, anytime you have a single party state, it becomes like communist China. And California was able to create a single party state by flooding their country with by flooding the state with illegal aliens. And what that did is it enabled California to redistrict the state, the electoral votes using the census data. And so that's why they're flooding. That's why nonprofits that are tax funded by the Biden administration have been flooding the country with illegal aliens, because they can send them to blue districts in red states, and they can get more representatives by manipulating the electoral college through the U.S. Census. That's the real reason. They're not bringing them up here for jobs. Less than 2% of the illegal aliens that the Democrat Party has imported into New York have actually looked for work. And why would they look for work when they get SNAP benefits, free health care, free everything for the rest of their lives? Why would they even want to get a job? They're guaranteed welfare check voters forever. And so that's how California the left was able to wrestle control of a very conservative state, California. They figured it out. They could just use the U.S. Census data. Now, James Forbes says he likes the two view. Now, James, what do you think of the lats, bro? Right? I mean, you can tell, right? I've been hitting it, dude. Like when I do those lawyer workouts in the morning, I mean, I'm getting it, man. I'm getting it. You know, I'm getting old. I'm older, but I'm still keeping the lats. So let's see if I can, hold on. Right? Give me a bunch of ones for those lats, guys. Not bad, right? And they do get free health care, Mr. Stretch. You have your head completely up your ass. California gives free health care to illegal aliens. You don't know what the F you're talking about. Somebody get rid of this guy. This is obviously somebody who's got his head so far up his ass he needs to be in communist China. All right, so let's get into the next video, and let's do it. So I'm going to turn off the music because obviously that's a problem for Google. Let us go along with it. So the Palisades fire damage conductor on SCE's Eagle Rock Sylmar circuit is being examined as a possible cause. So that's one of the reasons for the fire. All right. And that's going to be, I already have a couple cases. So I've already signed up a few people. I specialize in fire damage cases. And we have a wrongful death case that we're going to be signing up as well. But basically, the Hearst fire in Sylmar has burned over 770 acres. It's allegedly 77% contained. Insurers have asked SCE to preserve the evidence. Good luck on that one. And 5 active wildfires have destroyed over 10,000 structures and burned over 30,000 acres. Economic damage is estimated at $135 billion to $150 billion. Unbelievable. Well, lawyer dog, you just don't know what you're talking about. I mean, the evidence is there. Illegals get more than Americans that receive welfare benefits. They also get free health care in California. State of California extends free health care benefits to all illegal aliens through Medicare. Let me see here. A damaged conductor. There it is. Eagle Rock. So that's the cause of one of the fires. But we also have evidence that at least one illegal alien for sure was riding around on his bicycle with a blowtorch, lighting bushes on fire in front of other structures. And we also have on good authority that Antifa members are also involved in burning down other cities. So it's just a ripe time, right, to cause chaos if you're somebody who hates America and wants to support the World Economic Forum's goal of creating 15-minute cities. This is the way that you would do it. Yeah, you're right, Dr. Donna. They also get housing and SNAP. They get about $5,000. Illegal aliens get about $5,000 in total benefits, and most disabled veterans like myself get less than $1,600 a month. And we're not in. If you have a job, you're not allowed to get additional benefits, and that's why the illegals aren't looking for work, because if they get a job, they'll lose most of those benefits. But California has open arms for them because they want the electoral college, so that's why they bring them into California. It's all about it's about manipulating the electoral college. So if you can just give somebody a bunch of free stuff, move them into a blue district, they'll split the district. That's how you create an additional district. It's based on bodies. That's what the census does. It's estimated that blue states, if they lost their illegal alien populations, they'd lose about 28 electoral college seats. So it would be the end of the Democrat Party if they were to get rid of the illegal aliens. So that's the real reason why they're flooding the country with illegals under the Democrats. And there's more than overwhelming evidence. Yeah, that's right, Grateful Dabs. I don't know who these guys that well, look, ignorance is bliss, lawyer dog. Do your own research, okay? It's out there. All you have to do is look. I've been a lawyer for over 20 years. I wouldn't be telling you that illegals get everything free if they weren't. I got no skin in the game, buddy, other than to have my taxes reduced. But yeah, it's true. But all you have to do is do the research instead of saying that you don't have any evidence. I mean, dude, come on, bro. Go to law school, learn how to do your research. Yes, good job, Julie V. Thank you. Julie V just picked up a 3-month membership. Thank you for supporting my channel, Julie V. No, you didn't do the research, lawyer dog, because if you did, you wouldn't be saying any of the things that you're saying. It's very simple. Just go on Yahoo or Google and type in, do illegal aliens get free healthcare in California? It's right there. It's an absolute fact. And I actually did go to law school after I became a lawyer. So calling people names and ad hominem attacks is another indication that you have your head up your ass, buddy. Yeah, I actually earned my Juris Doctorate after I got my law degree, even though I disagree with the public school system. But I'm always amazed by people like Lawyer Dog who support the government when it's convenient to them, but don't when it's not. Anyways, let's get into the next. Okay, so insurers have asked SCE to preserve the evidence. We know about that, but do they have a duty to? Maybe, maybe not. But we'll find out. We will find out. We will find out if they do. All right, so let's get into the rest of the evidence. Okay, so. All right, so here's what we got. So what government, and this is like, I used Grok to help me with this, by the way, guys. And I think Grok is a great tool, but it's also based on my own personal knowledge. So I'm going to ad lib stuff, outside of what Grok knows. Don't ever rely on AI for anything, guys. But what government agencies and private companies can I sue for the LA fires and for the lithium battery power meters, no water in hydrants, and laying off firefighters for refusing experimental vaccines, including the governor and the DEI hire fire chief? All right, so here's what we got. Private companies, you can probably sue Pacific Gas and Electric. We know that they've been in many lawsuits in the past, and we know that they have a connection with the lithium battery power meters because that's part of their contract, right? To meter the power. Waterless hydrants. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power also has been cited for issues related to the water supply. Like they're not checking the hydrants, guys. They're not They didn't test them for, I think, over a year before this last event, which is wild, right? Like a year. That's just wild to me. And then let me see here. Now, the lack of water in the hydrants has been a significant issue, potentially leading to claims of negligence or inadequate infrastructure management. Public officials, you could try to sue Governor Gavin Newsom. He's probably got qualified immunity, but typically you're going to name him anyways. And you're also going to be able to sue agencies like LADWP. Misinformation is circulated about his role, but factual legal grounds, I think, still exist. Firefighter layoffs due to the vaccine mandates. Remember that? They laid off over 500 firefighters, the best ones they had, the critical thinkers that didn't want to take the experimental vaccine. They got laid off. You could try to, they could sue for, and they are suing for violations of employment law. Public officials, Karen Bass. If there were budget cuts affecting the fire department capabilities as suggested in social media posts, this could be an angle for legal action. Though proof of direct causation to fire management issues is going to be necessary, which I think we already have. The DEI fire chief, the diversity, equity, and inclusion fire chief. Obviously, it's severely compromised our safety. And I think that you could make a complex argument that obviously it violates equal protection to favor someone based on their race or their gender, which is exactly what the left has been doing. They've been saying that, white people are evil and you have to put minorities in charge, irrespective of their qualifications. As long as you're diverse, that means that somehow it's kumbaya time. Now, there's also inverse condemnation issues. In California, the legal principle could be applied where a utilities infrastructure causes damage even without negligence, potentially making companies like PG&E or SCE liable for damages. And there's also a really strong class action case here because most of these people who lost their homes are similarly situated. So that's one of the elements of a class action, is you want to have a similarly situated situation. Evidence, you're going to need concrete evidence. You're going to need to be able to link these entities directly to the issues you're addressing. Legal counsel, obviously you want to hire a decent lawyer, unless you're Lane Myers and you live in California. But other than that, you're going to now the feasibility, the likelihood of success. Well, the one with the vaccine mandate, it's, unfortunately we have far left courts in California and they have upheld, firing these firefighters. So the difference is when you're a government employee, you have far less rights than if you're a private individual. So that's going to be one of the issues. But it's hilarious that Lawyer Dog says we have zero evidence here, guys. Really, really quick. I mean, it's so simple. Do illegal aliens get free health care? I just want to show you how ridiculous this is. I mean, I understand he's a leftist and everything, and definitely not a libertarian. Get free health care in California. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out. I just don't understand it. Okay, so let's just go ahead and read it out loud to Lawyer Dog, who doesn't even know that I have a Juris Doctorate. That's how uneducated this guy is, right? He assumes facts, not an evidence. He says there's no evidence that illegal aliens get free healthcare. So Lawyer Dog, you owe me 50 push-ups, bro. You honestly, dude, you need to learn the law instead of just spouting out nonsense. Like, actually do research instead of saying there's no evidence and F you, you're stupid because you didn't go to law school, even though I did go to law school after I was already a practicing lawyer. But let's get into it really quick. I mean, dude, you really have to Abraham Lincoln made a comment once. He said, it's better to be silent and be considered a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. So let's go through it right now, guys. In California, undocumented or illegal aliens are eligible for free health care through the state's Medicaid program known as Medi-Cal. All right. California has progressively expanded its Medi-Cal program to include illegals, starting with children in 2015 and followed by young adults in 2019, and then adults over 50 in 2022. As of January 1st, 2024, all low-income undocumented adults, in other words, all illegal aliens, because none of them are high income, are eligible for full scope Medi-Cal coverage. So all they have to do is meet the low income eligibility criteria. And there's no illegal alien that doesn't meet that because they don't have any money other than SNAP benefits and free everything else. The expansion is a politically debated, with critics arguing it obviously strains the state's budgets. It costs California taxpayers about $3.1 billion to $6 billion annually. Public sentiment, public support for this coverage has grown allegedly, but I don't believe that. Only the illegal aliens that are registered to vote at the DMV are the ones in favor of it. Taxpayers like me don't want to pay for it. That's a lie. And the expansion reflects California's broader progressive approach to immigration and healthcare policy. So everybody, I'm hoping that Lawyer Dog will retract his false and fictitious statement that illegal aliens don't get free healthcare in California, but I doubt that he will. If you do really good law work, Lawyer Dog, then I recommend you start learning the law and the rules of evidence, because everything you've said is false so far. So assumes facts, not an evidence, lacks foundation, argumentative. I mean, dude, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And it's not just grok. Yeah, you better leave, dude, because you're wrong about everything. So run with your tail between your legs, Lawyer Doggy. Now, you just need to learn the law, guys. I mean, don't sit there and because you're a far left commie pinko and tell people they're liars when the evidence is overwhelming. You can go to the official record, the California Senate bills and the Assembly bills, and it's all there. Illegal aliens, in fact, do get free health care in California. And grok is just an aggregator of that information. But, well, it's okay, Lynn. You can be a right, Lawyer Dog. But you can run along now, dude, because you got your head so far up your ass, you're embarrassing yourself. You can go also to the registry at the Assembly or the California Senate, but he doesn't want to do that. He just wants to say everything you're saying isn't true without providing any evidence. And the burden is on the party making the assertion. That's what a real lawyer would know. The burden is on the party making the assertion. So calling someone a liar and then making ad hominem comments about them and insulting them isn't evidence. It is something a typical far left liberal would do, or someone who maybe lives in Washington or Oregon, for example. Definitely not somebody who knows anything about the law. But, we've got overwhelming evidence of that. There's actually sources as well. So if you want, we can look at some of the sources. Okay. Well, since Lawyer Dog is a leftist, let's look at NPR. Let's look at NPR. All right. So leftist, our leftist communist friend, let's take a look, buddy. What does that say right there? NPR, California is the first state to offer health benefits to adult illegal aliens. Right there. See it, guys? So that's not evidence, right, Lawyer Dog? That's not evidence. You're embarrassing yourself, dude. Honestly, you should leave because you're embarrassing yourself. See, now the difference between you and I is if someone proves me wrong, I immediately am humble and I go, oh my God, you're right. Remember when I said I don't believe that Lane Myers had the right to record in court? But I didn't say he's lying. What I did is I did my research, and that's what a good lawyer does. A real lawyer does research. They don't just entrench themselves in a position that's false. But that's what you got to do, guys. And Lawyer Dog also says that I want immunity for police, and that's also not true. In fact, I've said that police should be subject to capital punishment for violating people's civil rights. So that's also a false statement. So far, he's batting zero. Everything that he's saying is just nonsense, guys. So let's see here. I'm trying to blow this up so you guys can read this. And that's also typical of somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. They'll engage in an ad hominem attack or try to change the subject. So let's stay on point. This is an NPR article, and it says California is the first state to offer free health benefits to adult undocumented immigrants. And this was back in 2019. Now, Lawyer Dog said that I'm a liar and that California does not offer free health care to illegal aliens. So what did he do? He changed the subject like most liberals do, right? And then he said, well, I support immunity for police, which is also a lie. I think that anybody who violates your civil rights who's in government should be subject to the death penalty. So I don't know where he's coming up with this stuff, but it's clearly not from me. But anyways, let's read the article. California has become the first state in the country to offer government subsidized health benefits to young adults. That's for the young adults one, right? And then since 2016, that's what they did. But now it's moved past that. Now it's 50 years and over. So let's look at some more articles. Are you guys on point so far? Are you following me? So far, everything that he said is false. Do you guys want me to keep going, or do you want to move on to a different topic? Do you want me to move on to a different topic, or do you want me to continue proving that California offers free healthcare to illegal aliens? Let me know, guys, because we could do this all day. All right. That's right, Grateful Dabs. That's the problem. And I feel bad for him because, like I said, a good lawyer would learn if he was corrected by someone with 20 years experience, with several trials under their belt and multiple appellate decisions in their favor. They would want to learn from that person and try and correct themselves and become a better person from it. By the way, I'm schooled by people that are less experienced in law than me all the time. And Lane Myers is one of those guys, as well as, who's that other guy? Reluctant Prophet. I mean, these guys are killing it out in Arizona to the point where I'm now in the process of motioning into Arizona so I can try and help Reluctant Prophet with his case against the local government in Arizona. I'm all about government accountability, holding the government accountable. That's what it's all about, guys. And that's what you guys should be about as well. And Lawyer Dog, all you're doing is assuming facts, not an evidence. Why don't you state an actual argument instead of just casting aspersions? So far, I've proven to you that you're totally wrong about California offering free healthcare to illegal aliens. And I've said that your position is the position of a far left liberal and definitely not the position of a libertarian. So you could argue, or you could just call names. So it's really up to you. You can engage in name calling and casting aspersions, or you can try to engage in a civil debate. Yes. Kinetic Customs. Anna Banana Republic. Oh, thank you, Julie. I appreciate that. Anna Banana Republic, I love seeing you here. You're awesome. Yeah. So Lawyer Dog, if you have illegal alien children, then you're not a citizen because if you're an American citizen, your children are automatically U.S. citizens, but why would you want anybody to get free anything? A libertarian, a real libertarian, does not support the welfare state. So that's where I take issue with you. A true libertarian does not support the concept of paying his neighbor's bills. That's not what a libertarian does. So stop calling yourself a libertarian. That's all I'm saying. Like, don't say that you're something that you're not. That's all. I mean, no disrespect against you, but you're not a libertarian. And if you have children who are your offspring, all you have to do is go out and fill out a birth certificate, and you can get your free stuff if that's what you want. And if you need an immigration lawyer, I've got plenty of them that can help you and explain that to you. It's not that difficult. But free things from the government, like free healthcare, is in fact the welfare state, and it is welfare. So you can look that up as well. Free healthcare isn't free. It means your neighbor's paying for it out of their paycheck. All right. So Right. It always does make me laugh, Lynn Davidson and Kinetic, that people say that they support liberty and freedom, but at the same time they support Obama-like policies. So you can't have both. You're either a statist or you're a libertarian. You're someone who believes in freedom and liberty. So anyways, let's see here. I love that Anna Banana Republic. I just need a community to dictate over. Well, just come and join me more on the Mike Eline channel. We can have fun together. A fascist. I love it. Why do you call them undocumented people? The federal code calls them illegal aliens. I mean, it sounds like you've been watching CNN too much, bro. They're illegal. They're not supposed to be in the country. So that's why they're called illegal aliens. All right. So anyways, let's see if we can find any other good stuff here. So this one, trying to figure out how to get out of this dag burn. There we go. Boom. All right. So guys, today we covered a little bit about the fires in the Palisades, the fires in California. We talked about people you could potentially sue for causing those fires or allowing those fires to get out of hand. And in future episodes, I'm going to have Alan Beck on, and we're going to talk about the PG&E situation, and we're going to get more into these lithium batteries because that's a real problem. The lithium batteries is an issue. These homes with these meters with the lithium batteries, once it gets to a certain temperature, they ignite. So there might, man, if I was you, I would not have a lithium battery powered power meter. It's not something I'd want to have. Yeah, well, that's all he's got to do, Greg B. All he's got to do is just go and file a birth certificate. Now, the problem is when the birth father files a birth certificate, now he's liable to pay child support. And so if that's what Lawyer Dog's worried about, then I understand that. But that would be the only reason why you wouldn't admit that you're the birth father. And that's why I disagree with the welfare state under Lyndon Johnson, is that it was designed to break up Black families in particular, to separate the birth father from the family, because you can't live with your family. The birth father can't live with the birth mother and to collect welfare benefits. And so it's a really slippery slope how the government has gotten involved and broken up families. And it all leads back to votes. If you get someone dependent on the tit of the government, that is the beginning of the end of our country and our civilization. Yeah, it's no point in arguing with you, bro. You don't know what you're talking about. You've been proven wrong multiple times. You refuse to provide evidence. You just talk and talk and talk. I provided you with concrete evidence that California gives free healthcare benefits to illegal aliens, adults and children. You provided nothing but a bunch of ad hominem attacks, vicious remarks, and insults. You haven't done anything that a real lawyer would do. So I feel for you, bro. I really do. But anyways, let's talk about some other stuff. So guys, I'll probably come on a little bit later and do some Mr. 5 ID refusal stuff. But I hope you guys enjoyed your time with me today. And hopefully you learned a little bit about the law and about what's going on out there. And join me and Chili DeCastro this weekend. We'll be at the SHOT Show with Dick Heller of District of Columbia versus Heller, which doesn't stand for the proposition, contrary to what Lawyer Dog thinks, that you can only have a firearm in your house. If you read the case and you know anything, if you know how to brief a case, what DC versus Heller was about is Dick Heller was a security guard who guarded government buildings in the District of Columbia. And what ended up happening is when he went home at night, he had to disassemble his firearm and put it in a gun safe, put like a trigger lock on it. So it was rendered ineffective. And so he filed the lawsuit so he would be able to have the ability to defend his home. District of Columbia versus Heller basically expands on the Miller case that all adults 16 and over are automatically members of the irregular militia and are entitled to have a firearm to protect themselves against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So I'd love to be able to help Lawyer Dog know about the law, but he'd rather argue and pretend like he knows what he's talking about, but he doesn't, and it's sad, and I'm embarrassed for him. But beyond that, guys, I will try my best to help you guys learn the law and become more educated about your rights, duties, and obligations under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, but more importantly, under natural law. Because America is based on natural law. Our rights come from an all-powerful creator, not the state. Remember that. The Declaration of Independence is very clear that our rights come from an all-powerful creator, not the state. And as such, the left and anarchists hate that because in a democracy or a mobocracy, the 51% wants to rule over the 49. And individual rights don't jibe with people like that. So anyways, let's see here. I know, Anna Banana Republic. Well, okay, so there's the law and there's the uppercase L law, which is divine, the divine law. And natural law, to a large degree, is based upon the idea that your rights come from a creator and that you have natural rights that supersede the laws of men. And among those rights are the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was actually property, but they changed it to happiness under natural law. And so property rights are very important. And when the government comes and takes away from you, taxes your income directly, they're literally taking away your property. The income tax is actually a Marxist concept, and it's designed to separate you from your wealth and give it to someone who didn't earn it. And free healthcare is an example of that because it's not free. In fact, I don't know of anybody whose healthcare didn't go up immensely once they got free healthcare under Obamacare. Ours almost tripled to the point where now we get our free healthcare. We pay for our healthcare down in Tijuana, or we get it down in El Salvador because it's too damn expensive in the United States. But no, Lawyer Dog God did give illegal aliens the same rights as us, and they have the right to abide by our laws and come through legally and become contributors to our society, not get free tax-funded benefits for life. That's what you don't seem to understand. Is you can't have your foot in evil and good at the same time, bro. And that's what you're doing. You've got your foot dipped in the welfare state, and then you pretend like you're a libertarian over here. You can't be a libertarian if you support the welfare state. You're letting people come up here to take out of my paycheck and steal money from the mouths of my family. And they're coming up here for the sole purpose of being able to vote for more free stuff out of my paycheck. You just don't get it, bro. That's not a libertarian philosophy. I'd love to help you. I've tried my best to try and teach you what the law is, what your rights are, but you have this misconception that you can live off the teat of the state and also believe in liberty and freedom, and that's just not how it works, dude. It doesn't work that way, man. It does not work that way. Exactly. Anna Banana Republic, the right to free housing when Americans can barely get by. That's exactly the problem. And no, the issue is illegal immigrants being imported into our country by non-government organizations funded by my tax dollars to come up here and redistrict red states blue using the U.S. Census. You really need to do your research, bro. You're too emotional. You'll never make it as a good lawyer without being objective. There's still a chance for you, but you need to get training from someone who's able to be objective and has experience as a lawyer. And you need to do your research too. Insulting someone and calling them names, it says more about you than it says about me. Right, a red herring, Grateful Dabs. That's right, red herring. And it's spelled Herring, not Haring. But you don't have a right to your neighbor's paycheck. So hopefully you guys understand that. Your rights, stealing from someone's paycheck, robbing from Peter to pay Paul, is exactly opposite of what our founding fathers wanted for this country. We need to get rid of the income tax and go back on tariffs, which is what our founding fathers wanted, and which was what made America a great place. But so far we've learned today, I've proven to you guys all unequivocally that California gives free healthcare to illegal aliens. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Give me a bunch of twos if you need more evidence. Let's just see that really quick, because that's what the argument was about, right? Besides him trying to change the subject after being proven wrong, just give me a bunch of ones. Have I now proven to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that illegal aliens get free healthcare in California? Or give me a bunch of twos if you disagree, because we can pull up the Senate bill. We can pull up the assembly bills that were signed into law by Gavin Newsom, and I can show you those as well. It's not that difficult. Okay. Well, it looks like the ayes have it. Yeah. And God is spelled with an uppercase G, not with a lowercase g. And immigrants do have the same rights as us. They absolutely do. They have the right to come here legally and get vetted to make sure they're not a threat to our country and our fellow citizens. And you're going to see within the next few weeks, you've already seen illegal aliens driving around LA with blowtorches trying to burn down homes. So that's why we have laws, to make sure that our people are protected. So the same reason why you put a wall around your house, to make sure that the people that come in your house aren't a threat to your wife and kids. I mean, these bleeding heart liberal ideologies don't work, dude. They just don't work. Nancy Pelosi has a wall around her house. Most people that are intelligent are well armed and protect their families against illegal alien invaders who've been released from prisons in Venezuela. I don't know why you think these people should have the same rights as us, but that's a conversation for another day. So let's see here. Yeah, well, I think we all agree that the government is a problem, but we, the people, have a right to protect ourselves. And one of the main reasons the government is a problem is because they're not enforcing our border laws, and they're allowing criminals and rapists and murderers to come across into our country, and we're not even able to identify who these people are. So it's a real problem. And I just hope that your family isn't assaulted or attacked by one of these people that you want to give everything for free to. So anyways, you guys, I do appreciate you joining me. I'll try to come on a little bit later, maybe to do one of my Mr. 5 ID refusals marathons. All right. So with that being said, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die. Era.